So column A is males, column B is females. What statistical significance testing does is it puts a little letter next to a number if it's higher than the other number. So in this case, let's say that column A, the 40% males, is significantly higher than B. What the program does is it puts a little B in column A next to the 40% in column A for men, which is saying that this number here in column A is significantly higher than column B. Let's take another example. We've got C, D, and E. Column C, D, and E. And let's say that that's age. Let's say we've got three groupings. The youngest, we've got the middle, and we've got the older grouping. And let's say that the middle grouping is significantly higher than the younger or the older. So the middle grouping is in column C, and let's say it's 50%. Next to that 50%, you're going to see the letters of the other two columns, which is saying that that number is statistically significantly higher than those other two columns. It's pretty complicated, but look at the crosstabs that I've attached and see if you can figure it out. Send me an email if you can. The most important thing to keep in mind is that most crosstab analyses will have little letters there that denote significance testing, because this is what was all important, what we talked about a couple of weeks ago in terms of sample size. If it's a very small sample, it's going to take a larger difference to be statistically significant. Okay. Now, I've been talking about percentages. The book also talks about mean. We might look at mean score on a scale of 1 to 5. What is the mean score for column A and column B? And it's the same kind of a thing. If the average for column A is 3.5 and the average for column B is 2.0, and those are statistically significantly different, then there's going to be a little b next to the number in column A saying that this number is significantly higher than column B. Okay. Now, as the book mentions, there are lots of statistical techniques that one might use in data analysis, but I think percentages and means are probably the most common. Regression analysis is commonly used to find relationships between variables, but I think that that's a whole nother lecture. Let's talk about qualitative analysis very briefly. Now, what I tell folks is that the key to being a good market researcher is to tell a good story. And that applies as much to quantitative research as it does to qualitative research. When I'm approaching, whether it be a stack of banners or if I'm writing a qualitative report, I start by asking myself, what was the story? What is the storyline? What did I hear? You know, in the case of our automobiles, is Honda doing well? Are folks more or less likely to buy a Honda compared to a Toyota? And then as I approach the numbers, or as I approach my analysis of the focus group, I've got my sights on those big picture questions. Now, I once had a client say to me, I'll never forget it. He said, "You know, it's qualitative research. We can have the results say whatever we want them to say." Well, there's a certain amount of truth to that, because qualitative analysis is subjective. And when I'm doing my analysis after a qualitative study, first thing I like to do is get my discussion guide, and maybe I've had transcripts typed up, and I'll read through them, and then I'll go through point by point and say, how do they answer? How do they, generally speaking, how do they answer this first question, and how do they answer the second question? And in my mind, I start to develop what the story is. Now, I have two approaches to writing qualitative reports, and maybe this is best left for next week, but I'm going to talk about it now. The first is I write a top line. And that's an important term to remember. Top-liners are summary reports, and I generally try to turn them around a day after we're done the qualitative project. And I don't have notes yet, and I'm going from memory, and I write kind of an overall summary of what it was that we heard. Why do I do that? Well, oftentimes clients want to know immediately, what was found out in the research. And then a couple weeks later, after I've had a chance to go through the notes, is I write a final report, usually in PowerPoint. And what constitutes a qualitative final report are often verbatims or actual quotes from consumers, and I might have some graphics in there. But the important thing doing qualitative analysis is that your sights are fixed on what is the overall story here. And just like in quant, you might want to compare groups. I might be interested in how males differ from females, but it's much more subjective, or it's completely subjective, compared to quantitative, where you are looking at statistical significance and you are saying that these numbers are, based on the sample size, statistically different. Okay, that's all I'm going to talk about this week. I think that's really all that you need to know at this point about data analysis. Look at the banners that I've attached and just try to make some sense of a page or two, and you might find it interesting going through them. And next week we'll talk more specifically about taking your analysis and putting it into written form, how to present results. So have a wonderful week, and thanks for bearing with me. This is complicated stuff. Be well.